Hi everyone, so today is going to be just a quick, hopefully, little tutorial on how I make my handmade ear wires, French hook style ear wires. Very simple process. You do need a few things. First of all, you're going to need wire. Now, a lot of people prefer sterling silver, or I use argentium sterling silver to make my good ear wires, but if you can't afford that and you're just making fashion jewelry, 20 gauge to me is the best. Now if that's too thick for you, you can go down to 22. I would not go any lower than 22 gauge because the higher the number, the thinner the wire, and it's too flexible. Okay, now this artistic wire, or if you get power wire, it's coated copper and it's pretty soft for an ear wire. So I'm going to show you what you can do to harden that a little bit if you're going to use it. And we're going to start with that one. This is Beadalon German style wire, and it's medium temper. So, you know, artistic wire is down here, dead soft they call it, and then medium temper is, let's see, I think it's either a little, here, it's just a little bit, not quite as hard as half hard. When I'm buying precious metal wire, I usually get half hard to make ear wires, not dead soft. Now if you only have dead soft, again, you can harden it, and you have to if you're going to be making ear wire. So let's just do this. We're going to cut off, oh, well, let me show you the tools first. You do need some kind of something to hammer the ear wires on. Now you do not, unless you want to shape them, you don't want a metal hammer. You want a plastic or rawhide hammer. That hardens the metal without changing the shape of the wire. Okay, hardens the wire without changing the shape of it. Okay, so you need that. You need something to make your loops with, and I prefer a plier like this, and these are Euro Tool. There's other ones on the market, but I use usually the smallest one for the front loop and one of the two larger ones for the bend for the ear wire. If you don't have this, you can use your round nose, which I didn't bring over here, or any other round object that will let you to make consistent small loops. And this is about the size of a pencil, so you could use a pencil or something like that for your ear wire, or a pen. You know, just make sure it's round and not like this one is like ridged all around. You probably don't want that. You want something that's smooth around. This is to me is too wide. This is my Stampin' Up pen. It might be okay, but it looks a little too wide. So I think this is about the right size pencil, so you could use that instead of for the wider part, but not for the rest. You will need some cutters, and I use flat nose pliers, and I'll show you how I do that, or, you know, what I use them for specifically. They're different than chain nose, and I wanted to just show you the difference. Some people call these chain nose flat nose, and that's incorrect. Even though they're flat on the inside, they're not flat at the tip. This is a true flat nose plier. You see, it's flat on the inside also, but it's flat at the tip. It's not rounded, and it's also smooth here as opposed to being rounded on the outside. So these are flat nose pliers, and I've had mine so long I don't even know what brand they are anymore, but these are ergonomic. I really like them. These are ergonomic, and they fit my hand good. That's the other thing. Make sure they fit your hand good. It's best to buy pliers that you can buy them somewhere where you can hold them and make sure they're going to work for your hand. These are probably too small for some people with larger hands, but my hands are smaller. I mean, they're fatter, but they're smaller. And the other thing is you need some kind of, this is a wire rounding tool, and I'll show you how to use that when we get to that. If you don't have that, you can use a nail file or an emery board. And I'll show you what to do with that when we get there. All right, so to start, we're going to cut off approximately 2 inches, 2.5 inches, we'll say, of wire. And we're going to cut 2 pieces because we need 2 ear wires, right? And I'm cutting this so that the flush part, it doesn't matter, you should cut it towards the flush, but you're going to be cutting some of this off. Actually, we're going to just go ahead and make sure these are flush. So I'm just going to hold my finger there and cut off a little bit. I want the ends flush, not angled, which would be what happens if you put it on the other side, and did happen. So I'm going to just do that. Let me get rid of those bits so I don't get them caught on anything. Okay, so now we have two pieces approximately the same. This one's a little bent, but we're probably going to be cutting some of that off anyway. So I'm going to start with this end. I'm going to bring in these pliers, and I'm going to use this little end. So put your plier in there. You want your wire to be showing, but not really sticking out, you know. It's hard to explain, and you have to hold it firmly and then twist both wires around. I'm doing them at the same time because I want them to be consistent. And then you can take them out and see, inspect them, and you can see those loops are the same. They're not closed, but that's okay because we'll close them after we use them and put something in there. Then I'll close them tight. Now I'm going to do the biggest side. I take and put my loops in there, and I make sure they're even in the plier, and then we're going to just pull this around and come all the way to the loop. Okay, so there's the top, here's the bottom, and then before I take them out of here, I'm going to still keep a grip and change hands and get my flat nose pliers. And then what I do is right about, I kind of go up against, oops, they're coming apart. It's hard for me to hold things in my left hand steady. Trying to make sure they're even. And then what I do is I just put it right about where that loop is. You see they're slipping apart. And yep, I lost my grip, my tight grip. There we go. Right about where that loop is, and just make one twist. See, you got your kink. That's where your tail is. Okay, now keep them together and bring in your cutters. And I really don't like using these cutters for this, but I'm going to. And you just snip off straight across. Oops, and there it went flying. And there we have two ear wires. Okay, now because this wire is soft, this is when you want to work harden. And I'm going to just show you, but I'm not going to hit real hard as I would because of the camera. It's going to wiggle all over the place if I do. But you just tap, and you might have to hold it on your block. Oh, it's not wiggling too bad for you. But I would do it a little harder than that and do both of them. And you're just making it so they aren't so wiggly going through the ear, that it hardens that wire a little bit. It actually did harden it already. I can feel it. So yeah, they're nice. Now the last thing to do is get out a wire rounder, or if you have an emery board, you can use that. But this end is pretty sharp where you cut it, and the purpose of this is to make it a little smoother so it doesn't hurt you going through your ear. And I was taught you do this all in one direction. I don't know. And there's different sizes. These are called a cup burr wire rounder. Okay, and you're just gonna go like this. Sometimes I do, and that makes it a little smoother. It's not quite so, it doesn't make it perfectly smooth, but it does make it less, so like your finger doesn't catch on it, or clothing or something. That one needs a little more. You just have to keep testing it. Okay, that's good. So there you have it. Two little ear wires, and pretty easy process. You could make them in you know, mass. You can make your tail a little longer. You can make your loop a little smaller. Like I used the biggest one, but you could use the next biggest one. So, and Nice, easy ear wires. Now, if you wanted to, you could change this up. Use your, well, let's just try. I'm just going to make one because I've actually never done this before. But what you could do is, let's make our loop. I'm not going to worry about, oops. So put it in. You don't want it to be sticking through. Bring it around. And you can twist it and get the loop closed if you want, there, like that. Now, what you could do is take your flat nose and, oops, you know, make this into a lollipop kind of thing. Bend that straight, and then bend this back a little bit. And what you're doing is you're allowing room for a coil or a little bead to be in there. So you could do that, make that space, put on whatever you want, a coil or a bead. I actually have done coils before, but the flat nose allows me to get a consistent amount of space in there. And then instead of putting your plier at the loop, you're going to put it at the end of that flat part and then bend it around. Hold it, take this, bend it again, and then you're going to cut that off. So it looks a little different. It's a little longer because you've got space there to put your beads or whatever. And notice I also put the loop to the back. If you don't want it to the back, all you have to do is take your pliers and twist. I should have 2 pair of pliers, but there you go. You don't want to be twisting it too much. I'm going to cut this in about half. And if I was making a regular pair, I'd do them both at the same time so they'd be even. And there's that one. Okay, so you have your loop, a place to put a bead, but you do need, most of the time you need to get your bead on there before you go like this, because once you do that, then it's harder to get the bead on, you know, and that helps keep the bead in place actually too. So yeah, that's my easy method to making ear wires. This one would need to be hammered as well because it's really kinked up. So we just hammer it and flattens it out a little bit. Yeah, that's not the best job, like I said. I'm not as experienced at making those. And then these, if you want to close them right away, just take your chain nose or your bent nose or whatever, and you're going to do it the same as a jump ring. Just going to wiggle it till it closes up. And I usually do that, like I said, after I put whatever I'm going to put on there on. And if you're not sure you got them closed, here's another tip. Get a pair of a magnifying glass or even your camera and take a picture. Magnify it on your camera before you take the picture. Or just even don't take the picture and put the magnifier on your camera like you're gonna take a picture. You'd be amazed at how much you see. And I have several times, even just recently, thought I had things closed perfectly. I went to take a picture to list things in Etsy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go back and rework that or close that tighter. Some were just easy, close it tighter, or others I was like, oh, that bead's a little smaller than that bead. I have to redo that because it changed the length of the earring, that kind of thing. So anyway, yeah, if you're selling things, you know, be cognizant of that kind of stuff, because you don't want these, see that they're, neither one of those is perfectly closed yet, but they're closed more until I get a bead on there. So yeah, simple ear wires. Hope you enjoyed that. Come back the next time. I still have a video to do, which would be a couple days still, for Bead Park, and that'll be a tutorial as well, a little longer tutorial than this, and using their products. All right guys, talk to you soon. Hugs, love, and peace.